Good morning, everybody. We're on Daf Hey Owen Bays. 15 lines from the top by the two dots, by the word Itmar. Itmar was stated, Bifnei Kama Noisnei law, in front of how many people does the shliach give the get to the woman? Because we're talking about a shliach lehaylocha. It's a shliach who has to bring the get from, he's a messenger from the Baal to the wife. So in front of how many people does he have to give it to her? Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Chanina. There's two opinions. Rabbi Yechon and Rabbi Chanina. Chad Amar b'fnei shnayim, v'chad Amar b'fnei shleisha. One opinion is in front of two people, and the other one is in front of three people. Tistayim, let us conclude that Rabbi Yochanan who Amar b'fnei shnayim. So Rabbi Yochanan, who was the one who said that he has to give in front of two people, because we have a story. The Ravan bar Rav Chisda, I see Gittin like Rabbi Yochanan. Ravan, the son of Rav Chisda, brought a get in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Omer lei zil havla ba'api today. And Rabbi Yochanan said, give the get over in front of two people. And tell them that it was written and signed in front of them. This time, let us conclude, this is a strong proof. It was clear, it's clear that Rabbi Yochanan required two witnesses. So what is their machlokes about? Let us say that they're arguing about this.
Where's your background?
The opinion that says that you have to give it in front of two witnesses is because people from Chutz La'aretz don't know that it has to be lishma, that it has to be for the sake of the woman. So you have to say it in front of two witnesses. As long as you have two witnesses and you say that's good enough. That will prove that it was done lishma. The opinion that says that it has to be given in front of three witnesses, it's because there's not enough witnesses. We don't have witnesses to be mekayim it, to establish the validity of the document. So because we have to establish the validity, you need three witnesses. That's like a bezdin. You need a kim shtaris b'shleisha. We have a general concept that mekayim a star, to establish the validity of a star, is b'shleisha.
Sorry, David, I'm a bit late. Where are you starting? Where are you?
We're about 22 lines in Daf Hamad Beis v'tizvera. The second word in the line is when the line starts with kindly, and the second word is v'tizvera.
Hold on. This is on. Oh, 1 second. I got the wrong Gemara. Give me a second. Okay. Daf Hayomid base.
Yeah, about 22 lines from the top. By where the line starts, the kaimai, the second word in the line is v'tizvera.
I don't see. Oh, but Tizbara. Got it.
Let's analyze this. From the fact that Rabbi Shimon Levi is the opinion that says that the reason that the shliach has to say is because they don't know it has to be for the sake of the woman. So shliach has to testify to that effect. Rabbi Yechon was one who said it's because we don't have witnesses to establish the validity of the shtar. If so, why does Rabbi Yochanan say that the shliach gives it over in front of two witnesses? We just said that if the reason is if the reason is because you don't have witnesses, you need three. You need to say in front of three witnesses because it's like a bezdin to establish to be mekayim status, kim status b'shleisha. But furthermore, Rabbi Yitzlei the Rava, Rabbi who holds of ein b'kin l'shma, holds also of Rava. Also holds that you need to do it because so So it's not, so that's the problem. So everybody holds you need, it's Eidem Mitzuyim L'Kaima at the very least. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina. The Machlokes says in regards to the concept, do we say that a shliach is able to be a witness? Is he also able to be a dayan? The opinion that says that the shliach is able to be a witness, he's also able to be a dayan. So therefore, and he only needs to say it in front of two people because he himself is the third. The shliach himself is the third person to establish the validity of the shtar. The opinion that says that he has to say in front of three witnesses, and it's because he doesn't count. So he becomes a witness, so he's testifying about the fact that he had seen that the shtar was valid, but he doesn't become a dayan. So therefore, he doesn't join with the other two to be the third. The Gemara asks the question: Midrabanan, anything that's only midrabanan, eid nasa dayan, a witness is able to be a dayan. So to here, we should say the same thing when it comes to the get. That an aid should be able to be a dayan. So the Gemara says, Tosfos had a different girsa, by the way. He said, well, and then he brings an answer. How do you believe the rice? In other words, this that we require the get to be mekuyim, this we require the shliach to say it itself is a takana midrabanan. So why don't we allow him to be the dayan? So dirabanan. Here they're arguing about this. Tomorrow sovar given the ishuk sheda lavius a get. One opinion is because the woman herself is allowed to bring her own get. Zimnin demaisa leitzav v'samchialo. Maybe a woman will bring the get, and we're gonna rely on her by mistake. We're gonna say that she could say it in front of two people. So therefore, in order not to get into that problem, you always have to say it in front of three people, just in case a woman comes with her get. So she can join them to be the third for many reasons. First of all, she's a woman. Also, it's her get. The other opinion is, however, we'll know the difference. And if a woman will come, we'll only do it in front of two. But if it's a regular shliach, he could join with two. If a woman will come, she has to do it in front of three. But a regular shliach will join when he'll be able to do it in front of two. That's the other opinion. So Rabbi Yochanan holds, we know the distinction. And if a shliach comes, he says it in front of two people, and he joins them to be the third. According to the Rav Chanina, you need to do it in front of three, just in case a woman comes, so you don't make this mistake. Tanya could say that Rabbi Yochanan, there's a brayta that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe get in Dina Sayam, but nosnu lo. Someone who brings a get from overseas and they gave it to her. And he didn't tell her when he gave her the get that it was written and signed in front of me. And she got married using this get. Rabbi Meir says, whoever married this woman with this get has to divorce her. And any children that she had from this get is also considered mamzedim. Some disagree about the children. They say the children are not mamzedim. Kate said, Yasa, what should you do with the get? Should take it from her and give it back to her in front of two people, and say that it was written and signed in front of me. Rabbi Meir. Now the Gemara asks on Rabbi Meir. So we see clearly this supports Rabbi Yochanan. What do the Chacham say? That the divorce is he just has to give it over again, a second time. Says Tosfos, actually interesting. According to the Chachamim, according to the Chacham, what should she do that in order for her to be able to be married or not to have to leave her husband? So this will also allow her not to leave her husband. Child is fine. According to Rabbi Meir, kids said Yasa is only before you get married. After you get married, according to Rabbi Meir, interkona for the child. Interkona also for her marriage. Says Toysus in the fact that you have to say b'shas nesina at the time that she took it from him. When you're giving it over, when you're giving it, the shliach is given to the woman. He has to say b'fana nichtov. And after tochidei dibur, he has to say b'fana nichtov. Question is, what if it's after kedei dibur? What if it's after the time passes that where you say the word shalom aleichem Rabbi? It says there was a suffix. Had a suffix. Let's say you're a sukkah b'isahinian or not. Is that enough? Is it okay if you're involved with that? What about saying it before you give it to her? That's also a suffix. Okay, so the Gemara goes on. The Gemara has a question. Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, just because you didn't say the child is a mamzer, yes, the Tamei, Gittin, anybody who changes from the way the Chacham established, the way they set it, the Gittin to be, it's entirely invalid, the get. According to the Chacham, it's not that it's invalid, it's just l'chatchila, you should do it in a way of kach v'kach. So it's not like she got married bit this. Fact is, to be mitzi from many problems, you give the get again. According to Rabbi Meir, no, the whole get was disqualified. There was no get. That means she married him Be'isr. So if she married him Be'isr, the child will be a mamzer. And she cannot remarry him, or she cannot stay with him, even if you redo it again. According to him, you could redo the get, but that the original Nesinas get was Be'isr.
It sounds like a very extremist. It sounds like a very extremist position. It does.
Right. It's interesting. Very strict, yeah. For 7 lines on the bottom, Barhedya boy la sui gito. Barhedya wanted to bring a get from Chutzaretz. Also, the commander of Achi, they have a Muna Gitti. He went in front of Rav Achi in the city where they would write it. He was in charge of the Gittin. So the Gemara says, Omer lei, Sodachat Lamed Okol Isla. You have to be very careful with every letter they get to make sure it was written properly. Also, the Kamei, the Ravami, Ravasi, Amrilei Loitzrichas. They told him it's not that important. Only the first line of the get. First line of the get is the most important. You don't have to be there for the whole get. To make sure that it was on the Shema, for example. If you're going to say that you want to be machmer and to taka stay or stick around, no, then you're going to cast doubt on all the Gittin. Make sure you're there for the first line. When you see them doing the first line of the Shema, then it's good enough. Rabba Bar Barchana, I see Gitto, Pal Gifted Kame, Pal Gifted Kame. He brought a get that half was written in front of him and half not. Also, the Kabed Rabbi Lozer, he went in front of Rabbi Lozer to ask him if it was kosher. Even if you wrote the first line of the Shema, you don't have to stick around. You could trust that the Sefer will finish at the Shema. Vashi Yomer Afilu. Even if you heard Kan Kumusa Kul Kumusa and the Uriah, it sounded like the parchment talking, so to speak. That's enough. As long as you knew that it was the Shema, that part. Shetiknu lishma. When they were straightening the cloth and they were smoothing the cloth, where you heard the writing, then you know that it was done lishma. That's good enough. Tanika v'zeh Ravashi. There's a supporting brisa for Ravashi. We're on top of Vav Amar Aleph now. And maybe get didn't say yam. Somebody brings a get from overseas. Even if he's not in the same room, he's downstairs and the sofer is upstairs. He's upstairs. The sofer is downstairs. The scribe. Even if you're going in and out the whole day, kosher. It's kosher. The Gemara asks if he's downstairs and the sofer is upstairs. You didn't see it. It must be that you heard the writing and you know that it was done lishma. Omer Mar. Going further, Omer Mar, even if you're going in and out all day, it's kosher. Ma, who's going in and out? You can tell me the shliach is going in and out. He's not even in the same room. He said it was kosher. He was going in and out. I'll call him. He's seeing a part of it. Are you asking? Is that a question? Well, the sefer. We're talking about the sefer is going in and out. Says the Gemara. Pshita, it's obvious. Because he's going in and out, you're going to make the get puzzle. Like tzricha, the nofek l'shuk, also. He went to the marketplace. Maybe really somebody else told him to rent the get, and he was doing it to shame the other person, at least being Messiah. Kamash Malon, we don't suspect for such a thing. We're not worried about such a thing. Itmar. I'll actually bring the halacha just before we move on to Bavli. We're talking about Bavli now. I think David mentioned Bavli. Give me a second.
It's quite an array of books he has back there.
Beg your pardon?
Quite an array of books he has.
Yeah. Wow.
Simon Kufman Bays. Didn't maybe get the chutzlar. It's very interesting. So it says, Halacha Tezvav, Nichdav Vixas the get before of him. Part of the get was written in front of him. Benechtam Kule Befonov. And it was signed totally in front of him. Original, as long as it was the first part of the get that was written in front of him, or he was able to say in front of him. Even one line. So we just learned. Even if you just heard the sound of the quill, you're writing the sound of the quill, which is the pshat of Rashi. You understood that it was lishma. If you didn't hear the chituch, Vagoy Sashri writes, if you heard the husband telling, write a get for my wife, and the sefer took a quill, and you could hear the quill writing, that's good enough. And the chsima sa'idah was in front of you, then it's considered front of one enough. The sefer is going back and forth. You don't have to worry. Maybe somebody else found him and told him to write it for somebody else. You want to be machmir and you want to stand and hear it and see, watch everything. We don't listen to him. We don't want to be meitzilaz in the first gittin. All this is the ksiva. The ksiva, however, you have to be there mitchila ve'ad soif when it comes to the signature. Okay, which is interesting that we established already in the Gemara that dafka the ksiva is the main thing. The chsima, according to Rabbi Eliezer, you don't really need. But if you can't have eidim which are mezuyif mitachei, can't have non-kosher eidim from inside of it. Okay, we're up to the two dots. Itmar Bavel. When it comes to Bavel, Rav Omer Eretz Yisrael Gittin, Shmuel Omer Chutzaretz. Rav says Bavel is like Eretz Yisrael when it comes to Gittin. And Shmuel said it's like Chutzaretz. Maybe this is what they're arguing about. Tomorrow, Savar the Fishay and became the Shema. According to the opinion that says that it's like Eretz Yisrael, it's because they're not Baki the Shema, and people of Hani community, people in Bavel are learned. There's a great center of learning Bavel, no less than Eretz Yisrael. The other opinion is the problem is and it's also not common in Bavel that they go back and forth. Eretz Yisrael, we mentioned already the Beis Hamikdash and the Bezdin. Well, maybe they didn't have those things. Frag the Gemara of Tisbra, let us analyze this. How Rabbi Yislay the Rava. Rabbi holds of Rava's opinion that you need both Eidim Mitzuyim L'Kaimei and the Shema. Oh, every opinion holds out Kopanim that you need L'Kaimei. They need to be L'Kaim the Shtar. Rav Sover Kivin Dika Besifta Mishkach Shchich. According to Rav, because you have Yeshivas Kvuis, Rashi says one is in Surah and the other one is in Pumbedisa. One is in Surah and Nardo. So either go from one to the other and from the other city to learn Torah. So it's considered shchicha. It's considered to have witnesses that are common. Shmuel Savar Mesifta B'Gersayat Ridi. They're busy learning. They don't have time to look at signatures, so therefore it doesn't count. The students going to the yeshiva. It's interesting. In Eretz Yisrael was more that there was a bezdin. Here it's learning. So the Shmuel says learning is different. Learning, they're not makir the chassidus. They don't recognize their signatures. Itmar Nami was also stated Am Rabab Am Rahuna Sino Atzminu Kebavel Bevavel Keder Kipal Gittin Michiosa Rav LeBavel. When Rav came to Bavel, Bavel became like Eretz Yisrael for Gittin. Rashi explains when Rav came to Bavel, he established a yeshiva in Surah and Shmuel was in Nahardov. In the beginning, there was only one major yeshiva. Rav opened another major yeshiva. Even though in Bavel they always know how to learn. From Galus Yechonya, they already knew how to learn. The fact is, it only really started when Rav came to Bavel because Rav established a second yeshiva, which caused the students to travel from one end of the land to the other. From one yeshiva to the other, from all the towns to the yeshiva. I guess it wasn't enough just Shmuel's yeshiva. You had to have Rav's yeshiva as well to increase the travel. Was it Rabbi Yirmiyah? Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question. Rabbi Yehuda Omar Merekim Mizrach Merekim K'Mizrach. Yehuda says in the east, the Rekim itself is like the east. It's not considered like Eretz Yisrael. Ashkelon to the Dorim, Ashkelon Kedorim. From Ashkelon to the south, and Ashkelon is like the south. It's also not Eretz Yisrael. Me'akel itself, Me'akel Kitzof, and from Akka to the north, and Akka is like the north. Well, Bavel the Tzvain of Eretz Yisrael Kaima. Bavel's in the north. It's between Akka and the Tzvain. The Tanan Rabbi Meir Omer. Oh, sorry. From the north is where the bad is going to come, evil is going to come, which is the destruction of the base. That's our. But Tanan it says, Rabbi Meir Omer Akka Eretz Yisrael Gittin. Akka is like Eretz Yisrael for Gittin. Said in our mission, it's only Akka that's very close. And not Bavel, which is far. So we see that Bavel is not considered part of it like Eretz Yisrael for Gittin. Says the Gemara, he asked him, but he answered, Bavel's the exception. Everything everywhere to the north is considered like Chutzaris except for Bavel. Interesting. So the Gemara asks the question: until where is Bavel? Just like there's a machlekes when it comes to Yuchsin, so too there's a machlekes for Gittin. So the Gemara in Maseches Gedushin tells us that Eretz Yisrael is miyuchas, much more miyuchas than any other country. Any other country, there it's not miyuchas. Eretz Yisrael is miyuchas, and Eretz Yisrael itself is compared to Bavel is like an Isa for Bavel. Bavel is the most miyuchas of all when it comes to knowing of somebody's proper lineage. So just like when it comes to Bavel, where that Bavel is, when it comes to Yuchsin, there's a machlekes. So too when it comes to Gittin, but Rav Yosef machlekes the Yuchsin, Aval Gittin machlekes is only by Yuchsin. Aval Gittin divrei hakol ad arba tinyana de Gishro, the second willow tree next to the bridge. Very interesting. Where exactly that is? Rashi actually has there's different. Rashi here is a little different than the Rashi in the Maseches Kedushin.
Is that one or two?
What?
One. Two.
Rav Chisda Matzrich may aktisva in the Beyardishir. Rav Chisda required if you bring a get from aktisva in the Beyardishir, aktisva loy matzrich. From Aktisvan to Beyadisha, he required the Shliach to say vice versa, from Beyadisha to Aktisvan, he didn't require. Maybe because of the Vishen Biki the Shema, maybe it's because they're not Baki the Shema. Bahani Gemidi, the people in Beyadisha are Gemidi and they're learned. In fact, the Gemara of Tisva, but Rabbi Yislay the Rabba, doesn't Rabba hold of Rabba's reason? But the Chuliyam bin Lekaim. Reason is because you need to be Mekaim. Bahani given the Shuk Allah, Manach Yadav Simis Yad Dahani. People from Bay Ardashir, they come to the Shuk and Aktisvain. So because they come to the Shuk and Aktisvain and they sign all their signatures there, the people of Aktisvain know those signatures of Bay Ardashir. So therefore, if you have a get that was signed in Ardashir and it was sent to Aktisvain, there's Eidim Mitzuyim Mekaimai. And the people of Ardashir will be Mekaimai, will also be Mekaimai when they come to the Shuk. But the people of Ardashir are not Makir the Chesimus of Bnei Aktisvain. Even though they come there all the time to do business, they're busy in the Vishukayu, and they don't try to look at the general populace's signatures. Interesting, very interesting. It's a little bit. It seems a little dochuk. When we say the people coming there, the local populace knows their signatures more than they know the local populace's signatures. Okay. They're busy in the market, so therefore they're not going to look at the chesimus of the Bnei Hayir. He required even taking a get from one side of the Rosh Hashanah to the other side. There also he required. And Rosh Hashanah from one neighborhood to the other. Which a neighborhood is 3 houses, Rashi says. But Rava even required in the same neighborhood. So the Gemara asks, didn't Rava say it's because there's no witnesses? And here you have, in the same neighborhood, of course there's witnesses. Shani b'nei Nechuza denied he. Rashi says Rav was from Mechuzah, so the people in this town, they didn't stay home. They're busy doing business, and they don't even know the signatures of their neighbors. I personally don't know the signature of my neighbor, honestly. But how many documents do I deal with? Like none. For the most part, not none, but very little. We're at 3 lines on the bottom of Vav Amud Aleph. Rav Chana and Mishtoi, Rav Chana. I see Gittin v'lo yadani misur l'nador v'nador l'sur. Rav Chanin, that's actually important Tosfos. Shiny b'nei Mechuzah denied the last Tosfos on page Vav Amud Aleph. We'll read it inside. We can't place a Rabbeinu Tam from here. Rabbeinu Tam Paskins. Nowadays, everyone has to say b'fana nichtov. Alpha Gav the Kaim like a Rava over the Vishnate in the Tzuim the Kaim. Even though we hold like a Rava who says ain't in the Tzuim the Kaim, and it's not because of the Shema. Nowadays, everybody's very mobile, like the people in Mechuzas. Therefore, you always need to say it before. Okay, so Rav Chana and Rav Chana, he said over the story that Rav Chana, I see Gittin, Rav Chana brought a get. So I don't know if it was from Surah to Nador, from Nador to Surah. Also the Rab, he said he came in front of Rab. Omer Lei, he told him, do I have to say or not? Omer Lei loy tzrichas. You don't have to say it. The Ovda Sahanis. He did it, it helped. Like the Gemara. My Ovda Sahanis. The Osi Baal Ma'ar le Mashgechinam. If you're going to say it, and the husband is then going to complain and pretend like the star is Mizuya, so then we're not going to listen to the Baal. Otherwise, if the husband's going to come, we listen to him and we have to deal with it. Says Tosfos is also an important Tosfos on Vav Amud Beis, the top Tosfos. They're all important. Mashma the B'fana Nichtav Moil Beretz Yisrael. Theoretically, if you wanted to say B'fana Nichtav in Eretz Yisrael would help. If you said it some chinin adibura, even though there's a mashmal said we're not soymach. If you actually said it, we're soymach. The Tanya, going back to the Gemara, 3 lines on the top of Vav Amud Beis, it says in the Brayso, there's a story of a person who brought a get in front of Rabbi Shmuel. He asked him, do I need to say it or not? From where are you from? My son. He told him, my son, from where are you from? I'm from the town of Sisoy. You have to say it in order for the woman not to have to be required to bring Adim if the husband's going to have problems. You should say it. After this person left from in front of him, Rabbi Shmuel, nichnas in front of Rabbi Eloi entered. Omer Eloi Rabbi, but like Farsi say, we've lost with Tchum Eretz Yisrael, with Kreva L'Tzipayra Yesem Yachvei. Isn't Farsi Soy absorbed into the Tchum, into the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael? It's closer to Tzipari than Akai. V'tzan Rabbi Meir Akai Eretz Yisrael. The Gittin Rabbi Meir holds Akai like Eretz Yisrael. Even the Chum are not going to argue with Rav Meir only by Akai. That's far. But not Kfarsi, it's so close. It's muvla. It's absorbed into the boundary. Rabbi Shmuel told Rabbi Eloi, you should be quiet, my son. Be quiet. Because in other words, because the thing was because it came out beheter, so it was beheter. So you should be quiet. So the Gemara, didn't Rabbi Yishmael also? He wasn't saying that it's required. He said the word so you shouldn't be required to do Eidim. He said it. So what was the problem with Rabbi Eloi? In other words, it was in a way of he was helping him. He was saying l'chumra, not that it was actually required, but it was in a way of it. Says Rabbi Eloi didn't hear that ending. Didn't hear him say shalei tizok leidim. And that's why he had his question. And so he said, "Hoil v'yotza dover beheter yotza." Sholach lei Rabbi Yosser the Rav Chisda. Rabbi Yosser sent to Rav Chisda a question. Gittin avoy b'sham lekan. There's Gittin that come from Bavli to Tzol in Tzachleim b'fanechtam. Sorry, he said a psak din. If you have Gittin that come from Bavli to Tzol, it's not required. You don't have to say b'fanechtam. Let us say the reason is because Ein B'Ki L'Shma, they're not Baki, and they know. Normally in Chutz La'aretz, the reason why you have to say b'fanechtam is because you're not Baki. People in Bavli are learning it. The Tizbarah, does this make sense? Analyze this, but obviously they're open. There's a problem also. Even Rabba, who says Ein B'Ki L'Shma, also holds of Rabba, which is you need Eidim Mitzuyim L'Kaimai. So how can you say it's not required to go from when you come from Bavli to Eretz Yisrael? Everybody holds the reason is because you need to be Mekayim the star. You have to establish the validity of the star. There's many people coming back and forth from Bavli to Eretz Yisrael. Mishkach Shtich, it's considered common. Rav Yosef said, Man Lebelan de Rav Yosser. Who's going to tell? Who says that Rav Yosser is a bar sampler? First of all, who says he's a bar sampler? Someone that we could trust. You don't have to say it when you're going from Bavli to Eretz Yisrael because it's common for people to go back and forth. But furthermore, the Shalach Lid Rav Yehuda, he sent to Rav Yehuda, and he said like this: people who come from there to here. People from Bavli will come to Eretz Yisrael. They gave the child over to a Zoyna and their daughter they sold for wine and they drunk. Rashi explains what is he saying? They would stay in Eretz Yisrael for a long period of time. They would leave their wives. Without having children for many years, and it's as if they didn't care about their children because they're bottled from period of Adivya. Because of lei v'lei sirtut. He wrote this pasuk without sirtut, without underlining it. You have to cut a line in the parchment. Only 2 words in a pasuk you're allowed to write without sirtut. Sholish ein kaisman, you can't write 3 words without sirtut. You must listen to sholish kaisman arba'in kaisman. In the Mishnah it says 3 words you're allowed to write, but 4, if you're writing 4 words, you're not allowed to write. So we see from here, from the fact that Rabbi Yosser didn't do sirtut, that he can't rely on him. This was Rav Yosef. I told Rav Yosef, anyone who doesn't know this teaching of Rav Yitzchak is not a great person. Makes sense. Something that depends on Svara. If he didn't figure this out himself, so you could really say it's not a Gavar Abba if he didn't figure out the Svara. Very interesting. This, however, is a teaching, and he didn't hear it. This teaching of Rav Chisda. How can you bring that on him? It's interesting. Rav Yosef is known as a Sinai, someone who knew everything. But furthermore, Rav Yosef the Askim Mori Al Yode. The Eibusher revealed to Rav Yosef secrets of the Eibusher. By the Pilegesh Begivo, famous story of the Pilegesh Begivo, there was a person from Beis Levi and he had a Pilegesh, and then it says Vatizno lo Pilegesh. What does that mean? Rav Yosef Mazvuv Motzelo. He found a fly. There was a fly when she prepared his dish, and that's why he sent her home, and that's why she went home. And then he brought her back, and so on. Rav Yonasan Renima Motzelo. Rav Yonasan said that there was a hair. Rav Yosef then found Eliyahu Navi. He asked Eliyahu Navi, what's the Eibusher doing right now? It's an interesting question. He's involved in this story, the story of the Pilegesh Begiva. Mike Omer, what's he saying? Rav Yosef says that there was a fly, Yonasan says that there was a hair. So Rabbi Yosef told the Navi, how can you say such a thing? Is there a suffix in front of Hashem? How could Hashem be chazing over what I said and what Rabbi Yosef said? Is there a suffix? What does Eibusher not know? Both of them are the words of Hashem. He found the fly, but he didn't care. When he found the hair, then he cared. So the question is why? The fly was Bekaida. Nima Baisim, and the hair was in her private part. Zvuv is just disgusting. But Nima Sakanta, but the hair is dangerous. In order for him not to become a krus shofcha for his organ, his male organ, to get cut by the hair. So they always made sure to cut all their hairs over there, and then he found that she had one hair. Sounds a little harsh, and she ran away from his anger. And then the whole terrible story happened that he left Pilegesh Begiva, the civil war, one of the worst civil wars in Jewish history. Another opinion is that both of them were in the bowl, the Zvuv and the Nima. Zvuv Einsav and Nima Pshus. The Zvuv, the fly, flew in. So you can't blame her, but the hair, that's cute. That's she wasn't careful enough.
Why did they use the Lashon Peshia for the hair? Why not Shogeg? It was just a mistake.
In other words, she wasn't why did we make a mistake? She was preparing his food, and then she made him. She was preparing his food, and then she didn't. The fly, the hair was in the dish. You should have seen it.
It happens. It happens.
You know that people have been killed for less. You know, Pari hung his bacon.
If you were making the salad, you wouldn't get a hair of your beard on a tomato. Come on.
Look how low our status has fallen from the days of actually terrible things happened from that story, so we probably shouldn't even joke about it. You know, it's interesting. After the Gemara tells us that the Eibusher said they bring more versions of what happened in the story. The hair was in a private part, or was it in the dish? Maybe everything also happened over there. Interesting. I hear what you're saying, Omer. I agree with you. That's what Rav Chisda says actually right now. We'll read through Rav Chisda. Person should never put too much fear into his house, like to be too strict on a person's wife. The Pelegesh, the concubine and Giva, her husband, the Levite, made her too scared. The Pila covered of obviously saw, and many tens of thousands of Jews died. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Kol ha'matul le'imi yisei b'sech beis, anybody puts too much fear in his house, soifu bali de shalosh averos. In the end, he comes to 3 sins, 3 cardinal sins. Gilui arayis, u'shvichas dam v'chil Shabbos. Gilui arayis. Rashi explains, when she's going to come time for her to toivel and the mikveh is going to be cold, she's going to be afraid to say that she didn't go to the mikveh, and she's going to be with him as a nida. So that's like gilui arayis. It's not mamish gilui arayis, but it's a certain type of gilui arayis. The Gemara then shvichas damim. What's a shvichas damim like this? What happened with her? Or sometimes Rashi says sometimes she'll run away and then she'll die while she's running away. Chilul Shabbos. Sometimes she's going to light a candle or cook after Shabbos started because she's scared that she's not ready, food's not ready, and he doesn't realize. The place that says in Seder Olam that these things happen with the Pelegish V'giva, all these things.
No, but just to go back what you said before, when
Yeah. What? Sorry, I don't hear you.
bad things are happening in his family because he's not involved in pure virivia, he's not taking care of his family.
Oh, right,
It seems like a sharp criticism.
Well, he's saying because he left for so long, guy leaves for so long to learn Torah, he was very unhappy. He was very unhappy with that.
It seems like that. But is that what he's taught? Is that what the message is, or am I misunderstanding it?
No, that's the way Rashi explains it. Because he left his family for so long. Tosfos says, "Vishen Mishtain," because they're in Eretz Yisrael, their sons and their daughters would be enslaved for food. Bizoinu is for food. That's what Tosfos has a little bit of a different explanation. And the Yerushalmi has a story that there was one person, he sold his daughter to give him money to allow him to learn Torah. Because
that sounds awful.
Yeah, he was very against it. Okay, we'll do a few more lines and then we'll flip to the Yerushalmi. This type of Chachamim say there's 3 things that a person has to say in his house Erev Shabbos when it comes to dark. Isartem, did you tithe the fruits that we're going to eat tomorrow? Eravtem, did you do the Erev for us to carry in the courtyard? Did you light the candle? You should say it calmly in order for people to receive it from you. Rashi said, I didn't hear this from Rabbi Bachana, and I fulfilled it anyways with my logic. Okay, we'll just end off with this. Rabbi Bo said, you should never put too much fear into your house. There's a great person who did this, and they fed him something which was big. In other words, something very problematic. Chanina the son of Gamliel. You can tell him they fed him Isser. The animals of tzaddikim, Hashem doesn't cause them to do anything bad. We're gonna have to do this place. It's very important places. I guess we'll do Mitzvah Hashem on Sunday. Tzaddikim themselves. They're the famous story of the donkey of Chanina ben Daisa. The donkey of Pinchas ben Yair. I'm sorry. They wanted to feed the dog. They stole the donkey, but they wanted to feed him. They wanted to feed him things that weren't Musar, that didn't tithe, and he refused to eat it until they returned him very skinny 3 days later. They tried to give him Eivim and Achai. Rashi says they lost the Eivim and Ashkuta, like a nice piece of meat from an animal that was shechted, because they were scared of him. They cut off an Eivim and Achai, and they brought instead so that he shouldn't understand. It's interesting that even though it was over that he did too much Eivim, he said he was still called a tzaddik. So, okay, we'll do the Tosfos. Tosfos points out, this klal is really only when it comes to eating. The gnai l'tzadik sheichel davar isur. It's a gnai for a tzaddik to eat something which is forbidden. But for example, there's a story of Rabbi Shmuel that he tilted the lamp in the first parak of Maseches Shabbos, for Yehuda ben Tabai that he killed and ate zoimim, different things that happened. There we don't have an issue. What about eating before Havdalah? Eating an achila of heter b'shas or is not the same as mamash eating a chilas isra. So that's the chiluk of Tosfos. All right, we better quickly switch to the Yerushalmi. We're on Daf Zayin of Aleph now in the Bavli. All right, let's do at least 10-15 minutes. Maybe we should just not do it, but we'll do it. For today, we're in the Yerushalmi now on the second page. On Daf Beis Amud Aleph, it's going to be hard to find for somebody who's in the Sefaria, honestly, unless he made a mark.
Chapter 2?
Oh, refer for chapter 1. We did one double-sided page yesterday. Now we're starting on Daf Beis Amud Aleph.
Is it divided into by halachas?
We're still in the middle of halacha aleph. We're not even halfway there. Okay, so the Yerushalmi says, not only does he have to say he also has to say it was done by day. It has to be done. It has to be, in other words, sorry, he has to be made that it was done by the same day. The writing of the get and the signature was the same day, and he has to say he also has to say it was done l'shma. He has to say all these details. In the Bavli, we were mefarish that he doesn't say it all outright. We ask him later all these details.
Not there yet.
They asked Rav Yochanan, does the aide have to recognize the names of the aide when they're signing? Let's say nowadays let's say you see the signatures that it's the names of the Goyish names. Are we worried that they're Goyim? Does he have to testify in front of us or not? Does he have to know who they are, and testify in front of us that they're not Goyim? Omer Loin, he said, Goyim loikin chasimosin alav. Goyim that are kalin or psulim, Goyim that are the chsimas is kal, are chasumin alav, that we see their names are like the names of Goyim. But you want to say like this? For sure you have to ask him if he recognizes it. Otherwise, there's an issue. Masnisa Messiah Rav Yochanan, we have a brayso that supports Rav Yochanan. It's a Mishnah. Any get that comes from overseas, even if though their names are like the names of Goyim, it's kosher because Yidden Chutzar have Goyish names. The brayso, it's brought in Maseches Gittin and Daf Yudam and Beis Yasser as a Mishnah. It says Kol Gittin Aboim Dinis Hayam. It's only in Chutzaretz because Yidden have the names of Goyim. But in Eretz Yisrael, if you have such an issue in Eretz Yisrael, that you have a get in Eretz Yisrael that it was written in Eretz Yisrael. For sure, you have to ask the shliach if he knows who the Edom are. Otherwise, you have an issue. You can't be Mekayim the shtar. It's interesting. We're talking about a get that was written in Eretz Yisrael. So Betzim, the shliach doesn't even have to say b'fanei nifta b'fanei neftam. But we still have to ask him. Otherwise, you have a problem. You have to ask him about the signatures. Like the Gemara, Micah doing. What do we do? What's the din? Where do you write the get? Rabibi b'shem Rav Asya sheyichtav b'makom Yehudaiki. You have to say it. in
David,
the
I just got a
place.
question. Is that they said the argument that you don't really have to ask in Chutz La'aretz because the Jews have Goyish names, which is true. But the majority of people in Chutz La'aretz are Goyim, they're not Yidden. So if they have a Goyish name, how could you rely on the minority that it's probably a Jew? Then the majority are
It's a good
Goyim.
question, but I feel like because we assume that the Baal did the right thing, that it's a good get. We don't right away assume that the get is Mezuyov. So it doesn't cause a problem. The get was written in Chutz La'aretz and the names seem like they're Goyish. Because Jews have Goyish names, so you don't have to assume that it's from a non-Jew. You assume the get was done in the right way. It's only in Eretz Yisrael where no one has such thing that it really causes a problem. I think. Mike Kadun, so what do we do? How do we do the get? Where do we do the get? Rabbi B'Shem Rav Asya Sheyichtav b'makom Yehudaiki. You have to do it in a place where there's dayan. Should do it in a proper place to make sure you're doing everything. Rashi says Bezdin Yehudim is Asfin. That's the carbonated. I say Rashi. You have to. Yeah, that's where you can even testify, and that will help you. Says the Gemara, Im Ein Sham Yehudi. What if there was a Makom Kavur for Dayanim? Where do you write it? The Beis HaKnesses. You write it in the shul. Im Ein Sham Beis HaKnesses in the shul. There, Mitzad V'Sod B'nei Adam. You should have 10 people there. Should be Mefarsim. We want to have Pirsum. We want to have the get being written in a public place. Omer Ovin. If you're going to require a person to bring 10 people because of a chash to know the names of the Eidim, it's better. It's easier. It's better for a person to bring 2 Eidim, require 2 Eidim, rather than having the shliach gather 10 people and the get is being written. My kadun. So what's the din? Afilu b'chanusin shel Yisrael, even in the store of a person, that's also fine. In other words, it doesn't have to be sort of any other. What if the shliach didn't say that it was done? It was written and signed in the same day, or it was done lishma. Says the Gemara, Neymar Madashol Amayra. We can understand the answer from what was asked on an early Admaira. Omerlei Vaida. Which one? Domer Rav Bar Chisda. Rav Chisda said, I see Gittin v'nosnu lo v'lo yom lo b'fanech nevanechem. What if the get was brought and it wasn't said, he didn't say b'fanech nevanechem. Also, Uvda claimed Rabbi Yochanan. This story happened to Rabbi Yochanan. Omerlei, he told Ravin Bar Chisda what to do. Tleo mimeno, take it back from her. And tell her in front of 2 people. Remember, we had this more just now in the Bavli. Rabbi Yochanan says, you tell her in front of 2 people. Has to be done b'shas nisino. What if you forgot to do lishma? Also the same thing. He also has to write that say that it was done by Yom Lishma in front of 2 people. So there might even be a machlekes between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. If you have to say lishma, it's important to say lishma, or or not. There's a certain lashon that you have to say, but he also has to mention these other details. Rabbi Yochanan Gibshim ben Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan holds a Gibshim ben Elazar. Gibshim ben Elazar, Amar ina get that sheyim lo b'shas matana sheyich. Rabbi Yochanan holds a Gibshim ben Elazar. So later on, we'll see. You have to say this is the get. The first nisin is nothing until you say this is your get.
You're right, it is hard to find on the Sefaria.
Oh, you guys can't find it?
Well, I found it, it took a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have waited.
Do a search and all this stuff. So the fellow from Toronto is going to get back to me in when it's. The problem is that most of the stores have to. Well, I guess all the stores have to order from March Scroll. So it has to ride from art school to the store,
Right.
and then they ship it to me.
Right. The Gemara asks the question: did Rabbi Yochanan Yevim with Rabbi Shimon Elazar? You gonna tell me Rabbi Yochanan is the same, is the same opinion as Rabbi Shimon Elazar? Shimon Elazar even get the Shimon Elazar B'Shas Matanah Gittin. Then he's gonna say ain't a get. Of course it's a get.
Does that look right?
But the Rabbi Shimon Elazar says it's fine. Rabbi Yochanan says even with the you have to say the right things when you have to say even if he didn't do it in the beginning. The Rabbi Yochanan Yevim Shimon Elazar Rabbi Shimon Elazar Shinim Omer B'Shas Matanah Gittin Shein get. That is he not moide? You're going to say that it's not a get if he told her harei ze gitei. In other words, if he didn't tell her. Rabbi Yochanan is more back than Shimon Elazar. Rabbi Shimon Elazar, all he requires is you to say, according to the covenant, all he requires is for you to say harei ze gitei. Mashiach Rabbi Yochanan, he requires you to say b'fanei nichtav or b'fanei nechtav. Of course, it's going to be a get. According to covenant, the shahu get. Rather, it must be. It's not the same din. In the case of Shimon Elazar, is talking about where the husband gives it to her, and the husband has to say harei ze gitei. He doesn't have to say b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtav. When it comes to the shliach, it's sheina isha nemenes leimris gabalti gittin mishluchei bayla. You have to say b'fnei shnayim. You have to say it in front of two people. She can't get married with this without the shliach saying it in front of shnei edim, in front of two witnesses. But Taninon says later on, Aisha atzma v'gittin. We know that the woman herself is allowed to bring a get. Why aren't we worried that she received it from the shluchei habal? You're telling me the woman's not believed? She's able to bring her own get. My kadun. What are you going to tell me? Time of the It's in order to make sure b'fnei shnayim that we know that she's a grusha. You have to do it in front of shnayim. Also, uvda kaimed Reb Shua ben Levi Omer leis tzarach. There was such a case that happened in front of Reb Shua ben Levi, and he said, even if you forgot to say b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtav, you don't have to do it again. Mechlef, if you go to Reb Shua ben Levi, it's a stira, it's a contradiction. Tam and Omer Reb Shua ben Levi shani shein b'kin v'tiktuke gittin v'acham orachin. Earlier we said that the reason why you have to, according to Reb Shua ben Levi, it's because they ain't b'kin l'shma. Because they're not baki. And here he's saying that if he didn't say it, he doesn't have to say it again. It's a problem. Chevraya Bishmed Reb Shua ben Levi answered, that was only before, where there were no Talmidei Chacham Chutzarts. Now there's Talmidei Chacham Chutzarts are also baki. Frag the Gemara, but Tninan HaMoilech, doesn't it say in the Mishnah of HaMoilech to bring from Eretz Yisrael to Chutzarts also? If you're going to tell me that we're makel, there's chavedim, there's Talmidei Chacham, why do we say from Eretz Yisrael that you have to say b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtav? We have Talmidei Chacham in Eretz Yisrael. Shleilach like begittin b'chutzar. It's not differentiate. So it's like zayda of meilech hatu maybe. If so, we should say the opposite. We should say it's shaloye tzarech if you bring from Medina Sayyah to not differentiate. Says the Gemara, "My kadum machmirim b'kalb decham v'mikil b'cham t'nekal." We're going to be machmer. We're not going to be mekel. Not to differentiate is a reason to be machmer, not to be mekel. Running out of time. We'll just do a few more lines to the bottom. Rabbi Yaakov Baracha b'Shim Barabo me'adod Omer Rabbi Shimon Levi l'shaovar. Said Rabbi Yaakov Baracha said. That's b'diavad. Rabbi Shimon Levi, this that he says you don't have to do it over again is b'diavad. If you gave the get without saying it, you don't have to do it again. He's also my you have to say so there's no contradiction. If you have two people who brought a get, they don't have to say it. They don't have to say these words. Rabbi Yosi ben Yosi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan says soref that they do. Who atzma shevis again if the Baal brought the get and it's ochlitn of neshnayim kedei lachzik grush of neshnayim. He doesn't have to give it in order in front of two. The whole reason is because we're worried about the Baal. Here, if he's giving it to himself, we're not worried. What if he gave her a get and they took it from her and threw it into the sea? And then he's not able to be placed. We don't believe him if he's trying to say it wasn't really a get.
You mean he threw it in the yam?
Yeah, we don't know what it was. We assumed it was a get, and then all of a sudden he's claiming it wasn't a get. We don't believe the husband.
Oh, so is she divorced or not?
She's considered divorced.
I
The Gemara,
thought they had to keep a copy of the get. Somebody keep it somewhere. I thought the copy, the court has to keep a copy, or somebody keeps a copy of it. No?
Not according to halacha, no.
Oh,
How can he say the husband can't disqualify the get? We don't know exactly. We don't know what it was. So how come the husband can't say that? Because we're talking about a case where he gave the get in front of two people. A shliach gave the get in front of two people, so she's grusha. She's considered like a grusha.
well, that answers my question.
We're talking about also that he told Adam, he gave it in front of Adam. So if he gave it in front of Adam, then what if Nasan lo gito ashkuchino get beposel? If there's not a tool in the get.
But why would he throw it in the first place? Why would he throw it into the yam?
No, let's say it got lost, and then all of a sudden
Oh, it got lost.
So what if there was a get that they found there was a psul in the get? Fune, they forced him, and he gave her a new get. Also, Uvda came to Rabban of Achsharon. Chacham said it's kosher. Says the fact the Gemara Kasha. I think we have to stop. Didn't we say that he's not allowed to be paisa? So why are we believing him? Over there was no, we didn't know what it was. It was lost in the sea. Over here, over is different. Over here, we see it in front of us that there's a problem. Okay. All right. I guess we'll stop here. Another blot till the middle.
So you've already